Hello, everyone, and welcome to this broadcast. Mark DeJesus here, bringing you insights for your healing and freedom journey. Today, I want to get into the subject of shame and shame attacks. I'd like to bring out 10 signs of a shame attack, and I'll get into that in just a moment. Let me first give you a couple things that are important to understand when it comes to these things called shame attacks, because I talk a lot about shame, and I feel very, very strongly that shame prevents us from actually working through the issues in our life. It creates these moments of attack over our system where we can't see things as they are. And so we end up going into some ditches in our perspective that don't allow us to heal in the way that we need to heal. And so the way that I define a shame attack is this. They're often moments, but it's this intense emotion. It's these intense emotions of condemning despair. Condemning is that accusatory judgment with a punishment involved, right? That word condemnation, it's a heavy weight that gets brought upon you. And it creates this sense of despair. The way I describe despair is it's like the bottom is falling out. You feel like you're spiraling, you're drowning. You get in a very vulnerable moment. So a shame attack is these intense emotions of condemning despair regarding how you see yourself and how you feel others see you. So there is a sense in the moment of how you're looking at yourself in a very condemning, very despairing way. And then there's a next level that other people and even God see you in that same way. So it heightens these feelings of anxiety, panic, and just an overall sense of like the bottom is falling out. And so you can often feel these things in your body. It can be very visceral, where these emotions are affecting you in your chest, in your neck, or maybe your whole head or your body just feels just absolutely overwhelmed. You want to get out of the room. You want to get out of there. Or these survival mechanisms come in out of a fearful panic. It creates an internal panic inside. I got to do something. And we go into a variety of modalities because of this. But as you see here in my notes on the screen, for those of you watching the video, it manifests the fear of abandonment. Because when shame hits us hard, it really taps into the sense of punishment, this sense of I will not be loved, this sense of I am an unlovable person, and I will be abandoned by people. I will be abandoned by God. And in many ways, these shame attacks are ways that we actually abandon ourselves. We don't often think of that, do we? We feel all alone, we're spiraling, and you notice in these shame attacks, what we end up doing is we end up abandoning ourselves. We separate from ourselves. We see ourselves with contempt and anger and hatred and despondency and pity, and we just start fueling that, and it becomes an unloving perspective in how we see ourselves. So in the process, it drives two unhealthy extremes. And I'm going to do a number of videos on this to talk about what shame is, where are we headed to when we get out of shame? Where are we going with this? And what are the ditches that we can begin to go into? And two unhealthy extremes. One of them is we drown. The second one is we become defensive. So these are two ditches that keep us from really seeing our lives the way that we need to see them. The first one, drowning, many people write to me in a state of drowning. They're spinning, they're spiraling, they're ruminating, they're catastrophizing, they're overreacting. Everything is erupting and they're responding out of that. They may go call a counselor, they may go call a friend, they may call a mentor, they may email someone, message someone. They're just spinning out, right? Because everything is in this overwhelming state in their emotions, right? Now, there's another pathway, though, that we can end up going into. It may not manifest in a lot of trying to get help. Somebody, please help me, rescue me. It actually is a defensive posture where we're stubborn, we're argumentative, we're prideful, we're self-protecting of an image. There's a self-protection of a perceived image that I act a certain way, I am a certain way, and all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out. And it's like, oh, I have a moment of vulnerability. I have a moment of flaws, and we become very defensive. The stubbornness comes out and reacts. And so we have to be aware. We can often go into both. So it's not just one or the other, but which do you find yourself in your journey? When you feel these shame attacks happening, I'm going to get into the 10 signs of them. But first, I want to share with you, when it comes to shame attacks, we need to let the shame attack pass through. We often panic and try to do something to quick fix. And we often make very rash decisions. We make panic decisions, quick decisions. You can't necessarily stop it. But here's the focus. You can learn how to respond in a renewed way. And a big part of that is responding compassionately. So you can see what you need to see. Isn't that really the goal of mental health healing? Is I want to see what I need to see in the way that I need to see it. And shame attacks are moments where we need to practice seeing ourselves in a healthier way so we can deal with our hearts effectively. So with that said, let me give you some signs, 10 of them, of a shame attack and how this works and influences our lives, our thinking, and our behavior. And then in some other videos, I'm going to get into the ditches of drowning and spinning and stubbornness and break this down a little bit more and talk about sobriety, because that's really where breaking out of shame leads us to, is sobriety. So number one, the first sign of shame attacks is this sense of humiliation or embarrassment that consumes you. Now, a lot of times we're not aware because we go into our survival mechanisms. We go into whatever it is that we typically do in these moments. Some people drown, you don't love me, and I'm terrible person. Other times we go in defensiveness. I always do things right. What's wrong with you people? And we become argumentative, very stubborn. So at the core, though, humiliation, embarrassment is hitting us. And humiliation and embarrassment many times are signals that we need to see ourselves more compassionately. But shame doesn't let us do that. So number two is you become overwhelmed by the flaws or brokenness about yourself. So we all have flaws. We all have brokenness. We all have sins, struggles, bondage. We all have those, but it doesn't allow you to see them in a healthy way so you can move through your journey and grow. It causes you to avoid and run and hide, or it causes you to absolutely drown. And this is a signal that we actually need to see our flaws from a renewed perspective, because we spend a lot of time running from our flaws and hiding them. And the healing journey involves embracing them with compassion, and that God will heal us in a whole new way because he's leading us on a journey. But a shame attack does this, and I don't know, maybe this is just me because this has been a big part of my journey, but it's this sense of everyone sees me naked. Like this, I don't mean literally naked. You know what I mean. In a sense of emotion, I'm vulnerable and everyone's seeing me and this spotlight is shining on me. I have this sense in my journey of healing through perfectionism where everybody sees my flaws and they're judging me. It's unacceptable and I won't be loved because of this. So it causes us to just hide. We almost want to go inside of ourselves or get out of the room or just escape. We disconnect. And that's why many people go to certain addictions or we go to certain things to check out because we can't stand seeing ourselves. Again, shame won't let us see ourselves through compassion and grace. A fourth sign is you emotionally overreact. Maybe you react in defensiveness, or maybe you drown in it and you go into self-rejection and you beat yourself. I'm a terrible person. I'm good for nothing. I can't do anything right. And here's the thing that I want you to understand, though, about this, because eventually the shame attack passes, that sense of overreaction. It will pass. What happens, though, when the shame attack leaves, we go back to our life as usual. We don't go, okay, I need to adjust so that I learn how to see my flaws and my mistakes with a renewed lens. I can see it for what it is. Where do you find yourself? Do you get super defensive? Do you get angry? Or do you just find yourself going right to drowning and you're shaming all over yourself? And it doesn't allow you to just see life, see your flaws, and therefore see your journey, because there's a journey available for each of us. And a lot of it is learning to relate to God, ourselves, and other people in a renewed way. And that's the battle that shame is just, it continually just keeps fighting you over. So where do you find that you overreact? Number 5, you diagnose yourself from a distorted perspective, and you do it in a shame way. I'm a terrible person, or I am, because of these thoughts or because of these things, I'm a failure as a father. I'm a failure as a wife. I'm a terrible Christian. I'm a narcissist. I just have no. We go real hard. We go down the slip and slide, and that causes us to lose our sobriety. We're drowning so much in how we're diagnosing ourselves. And many people, when they write to me, they're like, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, no, you're not seeing yourself the way that you need to see yourself. Yes, there's problems. Yes, there's issues. Yes, there's brokenness. But your drowning in it doesn't let you see what you need to see. And I always use the illustration of a lifeguard rescuing someone who's drowning. The first thing they have to do is stabilize them emotionally, because if not, the person drowning will pull themselves down and the lifeguard down with them. So it's important the lifeguard stabilizes the emotional state so that they can see what they need to see, and then go, okay, there's the shore. We're going to start making our movement towards the shore. And the overreaction, the panicking, is a detriment to what needs to happen in the healing and freedom journey. So I hope you see that in your process. So number 6 is you see things worse than they are. You catastrophize. And when we catastrophize things, we're always looking doom, gloom, dread. We look at things in a way, and it's unfruitful. My family doesn't love me. They're all going to leave me. Everyone's going to hate me. I'm going to go to jail, to prison. I'm going to be sent to hell. Everything. We go destruction and damnation. Now, you may be in a tough marriage situation where a spouse could be potentially leaving. But what we do is we panic and spiral. Oh, please don't leave me. Please don't leave me. Or something's happening with our kids and we panic. It doesn't allow us to be sober. When you see a problem with your children, we have to be sober. Okay, there's a battle going on here. There's things I need to be aware of. That's sobriety. Shame attacks take us out of sobriety, and we get drunk with catastrophizing. We get drunk with overreacting. We get drunk with pride. We get drunk with defensiveness. We can't see what is happening in our hearts, what's happening in the lives of those around us, and how we can be a better influence for change, for transformation, for healing. So we catastrophize. So in that, number 7, we become intoxicated. And I use this word intoxicated, or you could say drunk, we become consumed by. When we're intoxicated, a chemical or substance is taking over our mental faculties, emotional faculties in a way. And so when we're in a shame attack, we can become intoxicated, overtaken by the spinning and emotional spirals. And what I tell people is don't make major decisions in those moments, because we can overreact. We can say things that are not fruitful and helpful. We can spin out. And what we want to do is let the shame work its way through. We need to find a landing place. And I'll talk about basic things we can do in just a moment on how to do that effectively. So do you find yourself being consumed by what shame says over your life, your past, your mistakes, your sins, your struggles? Number 8, you can become very defensive, stubborn, argumentative, and prideful. Because what are all those things doing? They're protecting your image or the story that you're following. And so whether you go into a stubborn resistance or whether you go into a drowning, both can be filled with pride. Sometimes in our drowning, we're defending where we are. You don't understand. You don't love me. I've tried everything. And we keep spinning in our story unproductively, right? And that drowning leads us to self-pity, to victim thinking, foreboding, and all that stuff that doesn't allow us to walk into freedom. And then there's that defensive posture. I don't want to show anyone weaknesses. I don't want anyone to know that I'm really flawed and I've got a lot of issues that I don't know how to deal with and I don't know how to heal from. And I need help, but I'm having a hard time admitting it, and I'm having a hard time humbling myself to receive what I need. Number 9, over time you can develop a, quote, don't go there sign. You develop don't go there signs over certain subjects in your life. So now people can't talk to you about certain things, because when they do, you spin and spiral, or you defend and argue back. And it doesn't allow them to be able to give you healthy input that can help you in your journey. This is one of the struggles in our brokenness is we often defend the story we're living by. I've tried everything. I've done everything. God doesn't help me. God doesn't love me. God doesn't do this. I can't seem to get a break. I'm going to hell. All these we go into all these spirals that actually don't bring fruit of transformation. And we develop don't go there signs. Anytime somebody goes near it, it triggers us in ways, and it may have nothing to do with how they're even coming across. It's just now they're realizing, oh, I can't go there. I can't bring this subject up with this person. And so before I bring the 10th one up, does this ring a bell? Pay attention to what makes sense now. Don't get overwhelmed with all the points, but what one sticks out to you the most? Because if we don't work through shame attacks and stabilize in sobriety, do you know what happens? The 10th sign is we become very consumed with ourselves. You become consumed with yourself, protecting yourself, consumed with staring at yourself, spiraling, introspecting. And so shame attacks are not the way that we develop healthy moments of recognition. We all have these moments, but really the end goal is we need to sober up. So I'm going to give you 3 things to help move you into sobriety, 3 thoughts, because shame attacks make healing unproductive. Like if you're talking to me and you're in a shame attack, we got to stabilize. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. And so what I find is very, very helpful. And I've been on a long journey of this, and it has been so empowering. When you're asking yourself what to do, well, number 1 is let compassionate grace embrace you. I like that rhymes. Compassionate grace embrace. That's what's up. You have to let compassion enter into the picture. When you're in a shame attack, compassion feels far away. Love feels far away. A blinding light of exposure seems to be hitting you. Let compassionate grace. Grace is God's empowering work from heaven, working in and through your heart and life, empowering you on a journey, leading you on a journey process. So I have to let it embrace me. I have to let the Father's love embrace me. And so in that, I've got to be kind to myself. So when I'm doing this, and this is important, and being loving and kind to myself, I'm not trying to make all these things go away. Whatever it is that's triggering me, family problems, mental health problems, struggles, whatever, I'm not dismissing the struggle and I just want to pretend it's not there. And I'm also not drowning in it. So I'm not running from it, but I'm not drowning in it. I see it. And I got to be on a journey. Sobriety lets us buckle up, take a deep breath, and go, all right. You see, I've had to learn this in many areas of my life, and I learned this when OCD got so bad for me, anxiety got so bad for me, depression got so bad for me. I had to sober up. I would go into these shame attack moments, panic moments, help, please help. I need someone to meet with me right now. Pray for me. Give me reassurance, right? That doesn't create stability. So I had to, in many ways, they take someone who's drunk and they kind of give them a little slap, not slapping them mean, you know what I mean? Like, hey, wake up, sober up, throw some water at them, right? Okay, where am I? What's going on? And realize, okay, I didn't get here overnight. I got to buckle up. And I've got to welcome the help that is available. I've got to look for it, and I've got to humble myself and welcome the help that I need in my life and journey. Now I'm starting to see things more sober versus being defensive or spiraling, because both of those are not going to bring about the fruit that we need in our journey. Okay? The second thing is I have to ride through the shame attack with kindness. Just be kind to yourself so that it leads me to sobriety. Now, many people, they have a shame attack moment and then they just forget it and they just go back to life. That's how a lot of people live. So the defensive one will just, lash out in anger and then never speak about it ever again. And you can't even talk to them about it because they clearly showed you cannot, you cannot address that in their life. In the same light, someone else who's drowning, you realize I can't talk to them about that area either. And they go into drowning. And oftentimes in the drowning, they stay in the drowning, and then they stay in a defeated, hopeless posture of ever getting well. Sobriety is neither of those, but the shame attack can sometimes jolt us to going, Why did I react that way so strongly? There are moments in my life where I go, man, I reacted very intensely inside. That really bothered me. What's this saying about how I see myself that needs some compassion, that needs some grace, so that I can become friendlier to my flaws? Because as I'm friendlier and kind and compassionate to my flaws, the more helpful my journey is of healing and transformation. And it's also positions me to be more fruitful when you bump against my flaws, when you bump against my errors or mistakes or flaws and those kind of things. So number 3, experiencing sobriety. Now, I'm going to do a video more on sobriety. I'm going to talk about biblical sobriety, what the Bible says. But here's some things to leave you with thoughts, to just get the ground stirred up and churned in a good way for the seeds to plant. In sobriety, we see ourselves and our life the way we need to see it. Not worse than it is, not denying what it is. Here it is, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I see it, and I see it in perspective. I find that sobriety, there's another way I can put it. There's a couple ways I'm gonna frame this. That sobriety is a calm awareness that allows you to recognize what is going on and be able to take responsibility for the next steps. See, when I'm sober, I can recognize something and take responsibility for it in a healthy way, right? Where I can see what is in front of me so I can take the next step. That's what God's grace does. It empowers us so we can take just the next step. Now, it takes humility. I got to admit, I need help. I got to be willing to see what I need to see, because sometimes it's tough because we're like, we don't want to look at it. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see ourselves. We don't want to see our journey. And we got to face it, see our life. I think many people have to see that they have to sober up, that their life matters and how they affect other people matters. I've worked in many situations where husband and wife are in a lot of strife and arguing with each other, and one of them is in a very defensive posture. Many times the wife comes to the husband and says, here's a concern I have of some things that are creating some hurt and hindrances to our marriage and to our family. The husband gets very defensive, kicks back, argues, gets angry. His shame is rising up. He's in a shame attack and he gets defensive. And then he starts spinning about himself. What I do for the home, what I do for the family. Like, wait a second. How is this about you now, when she was bringing out something that was a hindrance and an issue and a hurt for her that she was trying to bring? And see, we get out of sobriety. Sobriety says, okay, my wife's hurt in an area, and I can be a reasonable part of recognizing and taking responsibility for where I can to bring to this marriage a healthier pattern of thinking and behaving. When we have a shame attack, we spin out, spiral out, and we get out of the conversation. We don't want to talk this. We're not another word. I don't want to hear any more about it. All right? It's very, very dangerous and eroding in how we deal with each other. When I'm in a sober place, I'm not impaired or intoxicated in a way that keeps me from being heart aware about my life. Now, this can certainly talk about drugs and alcohol and all those kinds of things and addictions for sure. But I want to talk more than that I'm not being impaired or intoxicated by shame in a way that's making me defensive or making me in a place where I go into constant despair and spiraling. I can't see what I need to see. I need to face the pain in my life in a healthy way. And so what does this bring up for you in your journey? Was this a help to help sober you up? Because that's what I want to do in this year and this season, is help you land in sobriety, because there's beautiful grace, love, and compassion for you to see what you need to see. If this resource was a blessing, would you please like, subscribe, go over to markdejesus.com. You can subscribe to our email newsletter. You can get resources and updates on resources so that you can live out your healing and freedom journey with a sense that you're not just alone in this. And you can also go to markdejesus.com, click on the donate button. You can support these materials and support the ministry work. Now, this is your brother from another mother saying, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. I'll be back with some more insights to help support your journey. In the meantime, I'm out.